like go silent during your music because we can't hear it.
I just assumed. I've hosted enough of this shit at this point.
I hate it. It's the worst.
I totally forgot that too, so I was waiting for Nick to just say like, "Oh, hey, did you guys freeze or something?"
So was I.
We're almost up to the same number of episodes you guys are, so I've picked up a few things at this point.
Yeah, it all starts to come together. Well, I was not prepared for this. I do not have another music, so we won't even have that silence in this episode.
You're not even going to put anything on?
You want to sing? Here, let's get loaded. Now you sing.
Happy birthday.
Oh, wow, that's what you went with?
I got nothing.
Welcome to the Loaded Box Podcast.
Well, we never finish first because we finished last.
I am Ben Morgan. That is DJ Primo, and that was a sloppy intro, but it works. We'll edit it. Don't worry. It won't sound like that when it really comes out. But once again, we are joined by Nick Spartz of the Beer Fueled Fantasy Football Podcast to do part 2 of our rookie rankings. So, Nick, thanks for joining us. Long time no see. Why don't you tell the people where they can find your information?
All right, well, if you guys didn't go listen to Monday's episode, which you should, shameless self-promotion, you can catch me at BeerFueledFF on Twitter, or check out our YouTube channel, Beer Fueled Fantasy Football, if you want to see us on camera. We drop all of our episodes there, and over the summer, we're going to start dropping some smaller segments there for you guys to check out.
You guys should.
I always thought your name was Nick Sparks, like Bubba Sparks, so thanks for clearing that up.
Nope, I did not write the notebook.
Oh, man.
Whatever.
Well, like Nick said, if you didn't listen to part 1, this is basically like reading a book from back page to front page. So stop this one, go listen to part 1, and now listen to part 2 so that it makes a little bit more sense. But what I was saying was this is our rookie fantasy football rankings episode. Part 1, we did quarterbacks and running backs, and now we are looking at some wide receivers and tight ends. So let's jump in right away with some wide receivers. DJ, who's your wide receiver 1 for the rookies?
Oh, we're doing this. I thought we were going to just name wide receivers and then tell them where we had them ranked.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's been a while since we did that last time. I forgot how we recorded that last podcast.
Start over.
It's been a long 10 minutes.
Yeah. Let me repeat. Let me go back then. Let's talk about Calvin Ridley, and let's first repeat what DJ said in our NFL Draft Recap episode, because I think he nailed it on the head. Yep. Rookie wide receivers hardly ever end up doing what we really want them to do. They hardly really ever be like totally worth it. They get drafted a little bit higher than where they probably should. I personally think a lot of this is from the class that included like Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, Jarvis Landry, Sammy Watkins, where a lot of these guys just blew up and were like, oh, I need to have that next best rookie receiver. This class is not like that. So we're doing our rankings. Obviously, a lot of these guys are going to get drafted clearly in dynasty leagues, but also in redraft leagues. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we get started. So DJ, why don't you lead us off with Calvin Ridley?
Calvin Ridley. So I'm not going to be near as high on Calvin Ridley as everybody else. I'm not low by any means. I'm just not as high. I have him as my wide receiver number 3 in redraft leagues for rookies. I mean, it's Julio Jones is there, and I really like Mohamed Sanu still. There was games I thought he was the number 1 wide receiver on that team just because Matt Ryan forgets that Julio Jones is the best wide receiver to play the game for the last 15 years because he's an idiot. So I still think Matt Ryan's just going to ruin another Alabama wide receiver that could be great. So I have him. They're drafted him. They're going to use him. He's got a great skill set. I just think it's a development year trying to figure out the offense for him, trying to fit in. He's got to deal with Sanu and Julio Jones. He's gonna make some plays. He's gonna look fantastic at points, and then you're like, why is he not getting the ball more? But as far as wide receivers go, I don't value him all that high when it comes to rookies. So falling into my group, I have him at number 3.
Nick, where do you got Ridley?
So for Dynasty, he's my wide receiver 7. I am definitely not on the Ridley train whatsoever, even before the draft. Actually, he jumped up because a few other guys I liked above him ended up in terrible or non-existent landing spots. So he falls into 7. For a redraft, though, he'd probably be closer to 5. Few players I'd take above him. He's going to be in that wide receiver 2-3 fringe in Atlanta where I can't tell which role he's going to have, which puts him in the 65 to 90 target range, which is okay, but not super fantasy relevant. He's probably going to be a flex play at best in redraft.
So Ridley's my number 1. If you listened to this podcast before, you know how much I like Ridley. And if you're a first-time listener, now you know. I couldn't be more thrilled about this landing spot. I loved it in Atlanta. When they made the pick, I was just ecstatic. I think I just slammed my beer and was just ready. Like, I loved that pick. It was like my highlight of round one. I think he's the perfect guy to work the slot. He's going to benefit from being on the field with the likes of Julio Jones, who's demanding that double team. If people are super low on Ridley, I'd love to know why. I just think he's going to jump right into that slot position, and I think he's gonna end up with over 100 targets. I love him in Atlanta.
You're not listening to what the fuck I just said?
No, I wasn't. I only listened to Nick.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, should I make the argument then?
Go ahead.
All right. So he comes into a situation where no wide receiver 2 or 3 has broken 100 targets in Atlanta ever since Julio Jones has been there. Mohamed Sanu is still a very, very good receiver, and there's no guarantee that Ridley will be the number 2 target on that team. Sanu is still a fantastic player, so as long as Sanu is there, he's going to be capped at a 2 and probably a low upside wide receiver 2 on that offense. Comes in at 24 with a pretty mediocre athletic profile, and he's a little underweight, so he has to play the slot. And on top of it, that team has never had a real dominant slot option. So there's definitely a lot of negatives to Ridley.
And on top of that, they still have Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman to deal with as well. I mean, Tevin Coleman's going to get a ton of receptions in general out of the backfield, and he's a great just dual threat running back, and Devontae Freeman's going to get the ball. So he's competing with 4 different guys who've already established themselves as great NFL players to get touches in general. So good luck.
And even when Coleman leaves, they've drafted Ito Smith, who I think is a great replacement for him.
Right. I think the easy solution to this is move Sanu to quarterback. Because he actually throws the ball to Julio. So I think we can get Atlanta's problems fixed and our fantasy problems fixed by just switching the quarterback to Mohamed Sanu. So that's my take on the entire.
All right. Well, I already like you more than Sarkisian, so you can take over.
Enough. Let's move on to DJ Moore, who was drafted to the Carolina Panthers in the first round. DJ.
I love that there's 2 DJs that I have ranked in this, so let's go.
Name bias.
I have DJ Moore as my wide receiver number 1. As far as, I mean, he couldn't have fell into a better situation. Devin Funchess, I just don't think is a number 1 wide receiver. He's a complimentary guy. I think DJ Moore is going to be the top wide receiver. I actually do believe he's a wide receiver that could come in as a rookie and put up some pretty good numbers, and that's why I vault him up at the situation. It just depends on, again, you just don't know how a guy's going to come in and react to cornerbacks and physicality in the NFL. So we're going off of guesstimates, but that's what you do in fantasy. We make our predictions. We're right, we're wrong. I think DJ Moore has the best chance of being a guy you see scoring a good amount of points as a rookie wide receiver.
Yeah, it's his volume episode part 2. We're going to talk a lot about volume again, obviously, today with these rookies. So he's your number 1, you said. Nick, where do you have him?
For Dynasty, it'd be my 1. Just I think he is the most talented player that landed in a real solid situation. Mm-hmm. But for redraft, he'd actually be my 2 behind another guy. I do think he's probably in line for the 90 to 100 target range. So that should put him at a pretty good floor. Funchess is still going to be there, though, and they're probably going to both see pretty similar targets. McCaffrey's still there. He's going to demand in the 80 to 100 range. And it's just all going to be kind of a bit of a mess there. And Cam is not the most accurate passer.
Yep.
So there's definitely some red flags there that bring him down to my wide receiver 2, though. Still love him as a player, though, and he is my Dynasty 1.
Yep, I also have him in redraft at number 2. Any receiver that Carolina took early was going to be ranking high on my rookie receiver rankings. Said all offseason that they needed to give Cam a more complete wide receiver who's not either just a big target or a scat back. You need to find someone that can do it all, and I think Moore fits that nicely. You look at the Panthers receivers, you're not really scared of any of those guys. Torrey Smith, Jarius Wright, Russell Shepard, I think DJ Moore's going to get a chance to compete. I think he can contribute as a rookie. I have him around Kenny Stills and another rookie in Cortland Sutton right now in regards to redraft rankings.
Oh, I would take him way over both those guys.
I think you're really low on that.
That's why we're here. We're here to discuss. Everyone's got a different opinion, so I like it. Let's talk a little bit about Sutton. DJ, where do you have Cortland Sutton?
Oh, I have Cortland Sutton down at. God, I should have
If
numbered
it's anything
these.
after 5, this is going to be wrong because DJ's counting as one of his low points.
It's way after 5. I have him at 8. I just don't. I don't know what to think with Demaryius Thomas and Manuel Sanders. He's got those guys to deal with. Obviously, as far as Dynasty, I'd probably rank him a lot higher, but in redraft leagues, I'm dropping him way down here just because of he's still dealing with those two. Plus, he's got. I mean, I just can't believe in Case Keenum. I don't care what he did. I don't from week to week. From week to week last year, I still wasn't believing in Case Keenum, and I don't trust John Elway and the offense that he's going to be playing in. I cannot rank him that high. I just can't do it. I just don't think he's in a good situation.
Nick, do you have a little bit more love for Cortland Sutton, or are we going to keep burying him?
I mean, not much. He's in redraft, he'd be my 6. So Dynasty, he's still my 2. Because he's obviously pegged as the Demaryius Thomas replacement. They actually have very similar games. So they're looking for their replacement for Thomas after either 18 or 19. So we're looking at the end of Demaryius Thomas here in Denver. But until they get a final answer there for quarterback outside of Keenum, who I agree with you, I don't have as much confidence in. I'm glad the Vikings did not pay him a ton of money to keep him around. So, yeah, Sutton's got some concerns with me. He's still got to fight with Carlos Henderson and Deshaun Hamilton, who came in this year, too, on top of Sanders and Thomas. Targets are going to be a premium for him, and I don't think he's going to have enough volume to make it work.
Yeah, Sutton was a player I was super low on going in on draft. We did a podcast where we did rookies who were most likely to boom and most likely to bust. And I actually put Sutton on my bust list and got yelled at on Twitter. So we're going to just hate him a little bit more here. He is my third-ranked guy. Just like what we talked about in the last podcast with Royce Freeman just going into a situation where he could get some targets. I wasn't super mad as to where Sutton landed. I know you mentioned a lot of guys that they're going to give a chance to just because they're young, outside of Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. But yeah, they took him obviously to replace Demaryius Thomas at some point. Not going to be this year, obviously, but they're still going to use him and see what they have in him. So I'm not super high on him in general. Wide receiver 62. I've got him between DJ Moore and Christian Kirk. So I've got all those rookies kind of clumped in the same area. Speaking of Kirk, let's go on to Christian Kirk. DJ, what do you got?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I love doing this shit. Oh, I have him at wide receiver 6. It's hard. I really like the situation. This is another one. I really like the situation this guy's in. You've kind of talked me into Christian Kirk a little bit in that slot wide receiver, playing with Larry Fitzgerald. Sam Bradford is gonna probably. I mean, he's had one of the highest completion percentages the one year he stayed healthy, and that's because he throws it 5 yards down the field. So Christian Kirk's that guy who's going to be 5 yards down the field. And if it's not Sam Bradford, it's Josh Rosen. Those guys can learn and develop together. So I just kind of scrunched him into an area where I think he's going to be okay. Obviously, he's not going to be high volume. This is rookie wide receivers we're talking about. So this is hard for me to rank. So 6 is just kind of where I'm guesstimating he's at.
All right, you're number 6 guy. Nick, where do you have Christian Kirk?
Both for Dynasty and redraft, he's my 4. For Dynasty, he looks to be the heir apparent to Larry Fitzgerald. He should come in and run that situation. Rosen is very good at throwing to the middle of the field, so Kirk should absolutely feast long term. I just don't know how much of a ceiling he's got. He's probably going to be more of a wide receiver 2 prototype. So if you're if you're looking to hit a home run, he's not the guy. If you're looking for safe, he's probably the best guy in this class. Maybe DJ Moore's the only one who could fight him for that. For redraft, there's some questions there. I'm assuming they're going to find a way to get both him and Fitzgerald on the field at the same time because I think they're by far the 2 best receivers they have, which will give him an opportunity to get that volume and make him valuable as a rookie wide receiver. If they don't, I would drop him very much. So if they say they're going to have Kirk behind Fitzgerald in the slot, then you drop him like a rock.
Right. I definitely liked Kirk pre-draft. I like the team that he landed with. I think Nick nailed that. Like in the future here, looking dynasty-wise, like him and Rosen, I think that could be an awesome duo moving forward. Outside of Fitz, his main competitions right now for snaps. I mean, there's guys like Bryce Butler, J.J. Nelson. I don't mind those kind of guys, but neither of them seem too threatening So I really like Kirk. He landed with a veteran quarterback in Bradford, so it's not like he's stepping in right away with Rosen as a rookie either, where there might be a little bit of struggle and chemistry right there with two guys who are brand new to the league. So I sort of like the idea of being able to play with Bradford for a while. But wide receiver 63 for me, in between Cortland Sutton and Alan Hearns. That's the company he's keeping in my fantasy rankings. Let's go on to... Let's do Michael Gallup. Ended up with the Dallas Cowboys after they lost Dez Bryant. Go ahead, DJ.
And this is another guy I think that landed in a great place. So I have him in my redraft league as my wide receiver number 2. He does kind of remind me of Dez Bryant when he was really good. I just in like strength and body type and the way he can make plays after the catch. I just think that he's a big, strong guy who can make plays. But he landed in a great situation. Who is he competing with really for the number 1 wide receiver spot there? It's him. It's going to be interesting to see how Dak and how he progresses from last year. I think that's going to be the biggest question mark going into the season for him. So it's going to be interesting to watch the development of those two together. And I know you nailed, Ben, Dak Prescott last year. I think you thought he was going to have a down year. Mm-hmm. I fully expect him to bounce back, but I expect Ezekiel Elliott and that offensive line to be back together and everything to come back together. And I think that puts Gallup in a great situation in this offense.
Yeah, the Dak level is getting kind of crazy there right before drafts were heating up last year. And I was like, tap the brakes on that guy. I don't mind him, but I wasn't too high on him. So a middle-of-the-road fantasy year for me, but that was one guy I was glad that I avoided. Nick, where do you have Michael Gallup?
I just want to touch on the whole Dak hype thing last year. I'm feeling all very similar things about Deshaun Watson coming into this year.
Ooh,
yes.
So is DJ.
Yes, I agree with you 100% on that.
I don't dislike Watson, but people talking about him as a top 5 quarterback, I think is insane.
It's unbelievable.
Nice.
Let's take it down a little bit.
Yeah, it got a little outrageous there at one point after like 5 weeks when he was on pace for like 48 total touchdowns. And I think people saw that and were like, okay, we got to jump in on this guy. And then he got hurt right away, so we didn't get to see how it finished out. But
but if he'd finished the season, he would have been the number 2 in interceptions, too. He was throwing a ton of picks.
He was throwing picks, yeah, for sure.
That was one of my arguments I made last year as well when we were discussing that topic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I like that.
So, but on to Gallup, he's my wide receiver 3 in Dynasty, but in redraft, he'd be my wide receiver 1. There's close to 250 targets that are vacant there in Dallas right now. In terms of West Coast style, too, Gallup is a perfect fit. He's a technician route runner. He bodies out defenders. He's going to give Dak some targets to throw to. I think he's at minimum looking at 110 to 120 targets this season, and he should produce as a viable wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 as a rookie.
Right. I didn't have a great feel on Gallup one way or the other really going into the draft, but he's another guy who couldn't have really landed in a better situation now that Dez is gone. I do have him as my 5th-ranked receiver. What was I going to do here? I don't want to have my stroke moment like I had with DJ that one time.
Yeah, that was awesome. He just froze. You should have seen it. He literally just stopped, and I was like, I thought the computer had frozen. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Like a premature early life stroke. But what I was getting at with this, do either of you, okay, so I'm kind of low on Dak in general. Outside of having Zeke Elliott, why is there so much love around the Cowboys? I've seen a lot of stuff on social media saying, oh, they're going to have a bounce-back year. They're going to get into the playoffs for sure this year. I get it. Like, if Zeke isn't suspended, if he plays all the entire year, if they can get it going a bit on defense, maybe. But I don't really see it, I guess, compared to what a lot of people are thinking. A lot of people think they're like a shoo-in for the playoffs. I just don't see it.
Oh, I think that's crazy. I think they're going to they're fighting for a playoff spot, but I don't think they're a shoo-in.
Right. No, I'm the same way.
They definitely can fight for a playoff spot. I don't think I've seen the shoe-in, but I think a lot of people have predicted them to get into the playoffs, not necessarily winning the division by any means. So
yeah, I just don't see it. I don't know if it's
at the Eagles.
I mean, just look at the NFC right now. In that division alone, the Giants should bounce back at least a little bit.
Yeah, they'll have 5 wins this year.
Yeah, Eagles team is really good. In the South, you've got at least 3 teams contending.
Right.
Out in the West, you've got 2 teams, and in the North, you could have 2 to 4 teams competing.
Yeah, no kidding. Depending on what the Bears do this year, that's legit like a division that's on the rise. Like, yeah, I don't know, a little crazy for me. I have Gallup as wide receiver 78th though, around like Tyler Lockett and
Christ.
Anthony Miller.
I think by the time camps come around, you're going to be bumping him up.
Yeah. I'm not going to hate on that.
I can't wait to
honestly.
rate my wide receivers and running backs now.
Let's talk about
Freaking
Anthony
me out.
Miller.
DJ's camera's off now, so it's freaking me out. I just see the top of his head.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I laid back a lot. I was getting lazy. I'm kind of fucking done with this fucking shit.
Thanks. Ringing endorsement.
It's your podcast, so
Yeah, I just try to relax now. I don't want to sit up anymore.
You just want a podcast laying down?
why don't you just adjust your camera then?
There you go.
There you
I
go.
did that with my foot just to make you happy
Jeez.
too, because I didn't feel like moving.
It's like DJ's in prime position for a money shot right now if this was a YouTube video.
Yeah, boy. I'm not going to say much about anybody here going forward.
It
Just
looks like
keep
he's
going.
laying back as Drake to drop an album.
Nice. Well, Nick, let's
Stop.
carry this. DJ can kind of hang out. Anthony Miller went to the Bears. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Damn it.
Anthony Miller's my wide receiver 5 if we're looking at redraft. I think he's going to immediately slot in as the wide receiver 2. When they're running 2 wide receiver sets, they'll probably have Miller Robinson, and when they switch to 3, he'll move into the slot. Probably looking in the 80 to 90 target range here, so he should get some decent production. Don't expect a ton out of him. He's probably a fringe wide receiver 3 at best, but I'm a big fan of his game. He's kind of got a little Steve Smith to
Right.
him, and with Allen Robinson there to take the primary coverage, Miller should feast.
Yeah. DJ, are you sleeping or do you have Anthony Miller ranked?
No, I ranked him at number 7, and I think I ranked him too low, and I think I'm going to move him up a spot or two, just after doing a little more research in the last couple of days here, or just the last day in general. But yeah, like he's got. I think Trubisky. I honestly believe Trubisky's going to be good. I think he's going to have. I think he's going to be. Like, honestly think he's going to end up with quarterback 1 number, so top 12 quarterback in fantasy this next year. That's just my bold prediction for him. And I expect Allen Robinson. I mean, outside of Allen Robinson, I don't know really who he's dealing with. So I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity to make a lot of plays. I'm a little higher on Anthony Miller than I previously ranked him at. So 7 I have him at, but I'll probably be moving up closer to 5 now.
Yeah, I've got him at 6. When I was doing my rankings, when I've continued to update them, I've struggled with Bears players, whether it's Howard, Cohen, Robinson, the tight ends, now Anthony Miller. Like, I'm struggling because I like that offense
about
on
the tight
paper.
ends?
It's never been there, and I just have this trust issue with them. So I'm nervous to rank them too high. So that's why I have him at 6 here. I mean, he's kind of flirting with guys like Gallup in my rankings, and even a guy like Zay Jones, and yeah, that's what I got. I wrote on my notes that my new nickname for Zay Jones was Ice Pick. I must have been doing that when I was drinking because I don't remember why I called him Ice Pick.
So
This is strong.
if I want to do one shout out to the Bears here, at least they have a completely new offensive system brought in here with Matt Nagy as opposed to John
Right.
Fox. That should help them.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that happens. I think I'm probably going to be late to the party on the Bears this year. I'm going to end up using this year as kind of like a let's see how it all pans out, and then next year I'll probably be more on my fantasy radar. But it's just tough. That's a really tough team for me to predict right now.
I mean, and if your thoughts on Trubisky, DJ, I can't see a team who did more for their second-year quarterback.
Oh, God.
Even the Rams last year, they did a ton for Trubisky coming into year 2.
Yeah.
And he's not gonna. Well, I mean, yeah, they got a new offensive coordinator, or yeah, he's not dealing with who is it, fucking John Fox. He's not gonna be babied. He's not gonna just run the ball every. Jordan Howard's not gonna get 35 carries every single game. He's actually gonna be able to throw the ball this year. It's gonna be a whole different offense.
Yeah, should be interesting to watch. Let's go to James Washington. DJ.
Oh shit, man! I was certain. Go to Nick.
All right, Nick.
All right. Well, he's my fantasy wide receiver 8, but in terms of redraft, he'd be my wide receiver 9. He's definitely got some issues here, being behind Juju, Bell, and Brown, where targets are just going to be a premium for him. He'll probably have a couple blow-up games because they're going to run a lot of vertical routes with him. So he'll probably be like Deshaun Jackson light, where he's going to give you 3 great games, and every other game you're going to want to kill him.
Yeah, no kidding. It's going to be just like that. DJ, do you got yours up now?
Yeah, I have it up. I was just trying to look something else up, but I have James Washington. I'm really close with Nick here, but I have him at wide receiver 9 for a lot of the same reasons. He's dealing with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Juju Smith-Schuster, a lot of guys just to compete with. So he will have that like Martavis type, Bryant type of game. I'm just repeating what he said, where he'll have like a big, huge play and then do nothing. Yeah, it's just exactly what Nick said. And I'm not even just saying that because I let him go first. I legitimately had him there, and I was trying to look something else up, which isn't working right now, so I'm still trying to look it up.
That's go. Fine. I've got Washington at 7, and I think the best thing for Washington was the fact that Bryant was dealt during the draft, because behind Antonio Brown and Juju, there's not much on the outside, really, I guess, that's going to take away too many snaps. He's my pick based on the offseason. I want to see how the offseason goes a little bit. He could probably shoot up a little bit in my wide receiver rankings. But DJ, you'll love this one because of your hate for Big Ben. Is it possible that Big Ben's going to ignore him as like this backhanded way to hate on Mason Rudolph since they were former Big 10 or Big 12 teammates at Oklahoma State?
Probably he's that big of a bitch.
This is getting a little too hot takey for me.
He would be like fucking high school locker room shit.
This is the same way that Mohamed Sanu is going to end up playing quarterback for the Falcons, man.
It's interesting.
All right, let's move on to a guy who was taken earlier than I think a lot of us predicted. The 49ers took Dante Pettis.
Oh.
Nick just gave a 2 hands up in the air, so let's let him lead this one off.
All right. In Dynasty, he's my wide receiver 6, and he also falls to my wide receiver 7 in redraft. They brought him in for a very specific reason. Also, if you're in a return yards league, he's probably more like wide receiver 2.
Right.
Yeah.
He's immediately going to be the punt returner on that team, and he's a really, really good one. But I think he immediately takes over as the wide receiver 3 out of the slot. And honestly, I like his game better than I like Goodwin. So he can probably come in and drop 80, 90 targets as a rookie. And I think Garoppolo is going to love him across the middle of the field.
Yeah. DJ?
I put him at 10. Again, this is as far as me, it's opportunities. I just think he's dealing with one too many guys there that he's trying to compete and get touches with, and that makes me nervous. And I'm not so high to put, again, just same thing we were talking about with Deshaun Watson earlier. I'm not going to go ahead and just vault Jimmy Garoppolo as a top 10 fucking quarterback at this point. I want to wait and see. I don't know that he can be great yet. I just don't. Okay, I just don't 100% buy into it. It takes me a little to believe it. It took me a while to believe in Carson Wentz, so I'm gonna sit back on that. I put him at 10. I think he can vault up over the next few years. I would definitely rank him high in Dynasty, but this year, being a rookie wide receiver right now, I just don't like the position he's in right now.
I mean, honestly, personally, I'm still not 100% sold on Wentz. So
really? Oh, I think he's the second best quarterback in the NFL at this point.
I'm not quite there yet.
I am. I'm in.
He's in my top 5 dynasty QBs, but I'm still not 100% sold, especially coming off an ACL.
It took me till week 15, Ben, to actually say that he tore his ACL when I finally bought in.
You were literally like a Wentz hater. All of a sudden, you come around on him, and then he gets hurt. So I think you might have jinxed him.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I have him ranked as quarterback number 2 for this 2018.
Yeah.
See, for me, I want to see 2 years out of somebody where they produce at a high level before I rank them there.
Yep. For Pettis, for the receivers, I have him at number 8. I do think the Niners drafted him higher than a lot of people thought they were going to for a reason. The return game, you nailed that on the head. I think he's going to step into that right away. Does seem a little bit crowded there, but I think there was room to add a receiver, obviously, to that team. I do like Goodwin. I'm a big fan, but I don't know. I'm kind of going to play the DJ card on this one, where I really want to see how it goes down in year 1. We had John Valencia on, who talked rookie receivers with us, and he was super high on Pettis. I forgot where he had him ranked, but it was like higher than most other draft analyst people that I had. So he kind of made me a little bit of a Dante Pettis believer. So we'll kind of see how that shakes out, but I love the situation he fell into. We'll see what happens with Garoppolo, but he's playing with Kyle Shanahan, who's got a knack for finding playmakers and finding ways to get them the ball. So, like the situation, going to be interesting to see kind of how it plays out.
Yeah.
And he's just a great hands catcher, so he's going to make some flash plays as a rookie.
Absolutely.
Ben's a body catcher.
I am. I catch bodies all day.
Yeah.
Let's go on to DJ's favorite pick of the draft. Equanimeous St. Brown of the Green Bay Packers. DJ, I'll let you lead it off.
I have Equanimeous St. Brown.
Did he race in the Kentucky Derby?
Yeah, he was.
I thought he did.
He got dead last. I have him ranked. Speaking of that, I had the quarterback or the horse I picked in that race finished in dead last, so that was pretty fun.
Nice.
Equanimeous St. Brown is my wide receiver 4. He landed in a great situation like, could you land in a better place than Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers? So going into year one, he doesn't. I don't know who's going to be second in targets there. He's not. I mean, it can be my own fucking team, and I'm blanking on goddamn player's name. I'm not going to say Randall Cobb. It was the other goddamn guy. Somebody remind me of my own team's names.
Devontae Adams?
No, Geronimo Allison.
Pothead,
Okay, so
Allison, yeah.
Geronimo Allison. It could be Geronimo Allison, but I think Equinemius has the ability to be a huge target for Aaron Rodgers, whether it's like in the red zone. He has a great skill set, and I think he's going to be used, and I think he's going to be used on the opposite side of the field. And I mean, he just got put with the best quarterback in the NFL. I don't know. I'm like somehow eating up this Equinemius talk, and I think I'm way too high on him, but I'm doing it. I'm being a Packer fan, and I'm just buying all the way in on Equinemius, and the fact that he's playing with maybe the best quarterback to ever play the game just shoots him up that much further.
Well, we know we won't see him on special teams, but Nick,
no, we will not see him on special teams.
Where do you got old St. Brown?
For redraft, not ranked. I do not believe in that at all. For Dynasty, he's my wide receiver 15. I don't even know if he makes this team. The fact that he fell so far as such a talented player shows that he has some massive personality and work ethic issues that teams were not willing to buy into how good of an athlete he is earlier, because he profiles as a round one wide receiver.
Oh yeah.
And I just don't know that that team's going to get it going. The team is just fishing for Jordy replacements in both him and Scantling. Both of them are profile as deep threats, guys who can possibly run deep and make a play, but I don't know that it's going to happen. I think they probably run either Allison or Moore outside this year. Jamon Moore is a guy I actually like better as an immediate impact player over Equinemius St. Brown. And then I think Jamon Moore is probably their long-term Cobb replacement, and they're probably still fishing a year or two down the line for their Jordy replacement.
Devontae's their Jordy replacement, kind of, as the number one targets guy. I mean, it's not the same type of player, but it's as the number one in targets, yes.
In terms of number one targets, I agree with you. They're looking. They're Adams is the number one guy, but he plays a completely separate game from what Jordy
plays.
It's not even
close to the same game. He's not going to. He's not going to get your 60-yard touchdowns on like a regular basis where Jordy did with the type of route running. It's a completely different game.
Scantling and ESB, they're both trying to hit a home run and find a guy who can run deep routes when plays break down. That's exactly what they're looking for.
I do like Geronimo a lot. He's really great after the catch, so he does have potential to end up being that other guy on the outside opposite of Devontae with Randall in the slot. But I don't know. Something just makes me excited about Equinemius and his athleticism.
So,
and maybe he's going to be the Martavis Bryant of the Green Bay Packers, where he ends up just being a nothing for them.
I mean, that's the thing. Maybe he can. Maybe they did get a steal. But I like what Nick said. It's like, I mean, yeah, he fell for a reason. Obviously, that was a big enough concern for him to drop. So it's the same kind of way the Packers. Who'd they take last year? Malachi Dupree.
Yep.
I mean, he was
who's not even on the team anymore. He's with the Bills now.
He's with the Bills now, and like everyone was like, "Oh man, he's gonna fall into this situation with Aaron Rodgers, and he's gonna look good, and blah blah blah." And then he doesn't even make the team, where he looked like he could play some. At LSU,
both these guys were the same situation where they were being punished because of the quarterback situation they had in college.
Oh yeah, I mean LSU sucks at trying to get their skill players the ball. At one point they had like Jeremy Hill, Landry, and Odell Beckham, and they struggled that year hard.
LSU,
Louisiana State University.
Oh, you're talking about Dupree. Sorry,
we're talking about both Dupree and Equinemius in the same sentence.
I was thinking you were talking about Scantling and Brown.
No, we were kind of comparing.
We went back to last year's draft.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Louisiana State University.
I had to throw it in there. Let's talk about DJ. I know you wanted to talk about another guy with your name, so let's go with the DJ Chark. Landed with the Jaguars.
Another guy who I guess landed in a great situation. I'm a high on Blake Bortles. I love me some Blake Bortles. I like little fourth quarter Blake Bortles from 2-3 years ago. I'm ready to see that Blake Bortles again. Outside of, what is it? Who'd they keep? Freaking who do they even have for wide receivers? Just like they had Keelan Cole, they had a bunch of like undrafted free agents.
Do you want me to do a depth chart for you?
Yeah, this depth chart guy. Talk about that.
Are you a depth chart guy?
Jaden Mickens.
All right,
they have Marquise Lee.
It's Moncrief, Lee, Westbrook. You got Cole, Mickens, and now they brought in Chark and Lazard.
See, so you're talking about a bunch of guys. To me, that's just a bunch of it's just a bunch of guys. I'm not real high on any of these guys, really. Blake Bortles' best year there was when Allen Robinson and Allen Hurts were healthy, and they kind of busted out and looked like great wide receivers. I think DJ Chark comes into a situation where he can be the number one guy here and kind of stand out and separate himself. They're going to have to throw it a little bit more and in order to be successful and continue, and hopefully for them to get back to the Super Bowl. And I think DJ Chark's going to be the guy on the receiving end of those passes, of Blake Bortles' beautiful throws.
Well, they've never been to a Super Bowl, so they can't get back.
Did I say get back?
Yeah.
And give them a chance to get to the Super Bowl, like get back to the AFC Championship and get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they've been to the AFC Championship either 2 or 3 times. I forget which, but they never made it to the Super Bowl.
Right. Last year. Well, I know they haven't made the Super Bowl. I didn't mean to even say get back. I don't know what else. White people.
He's been drinking.
So have I.
No, I've had one beer and I'm done, so that's not an excuse.
One and done. Nick, what do you got, Chark?
Chark would, in terms of redraft, would be my wide receiver 11 because I think he's going to get on the field just for his speed alone. He's my wide receiver 9 in Dynasty, though, because once Moncrief leaves after year 1, he profiles as the best number 1 type receiver they have on the roster with his speed, size, and his ability to try to be a deep threat that takes safety help over the top. So he's a guy who profiles well, and he landed in a high enough draft pick that he's definitely worth looking at in dynasty formats. I just don't like him in redraft.
Yep, I'm going to echo exactly what Nick said. I'd probably avoid that. I mean, you list off those receivers, and you're just saying the same name over and over again, basically.
Yeah, that's what it is. It seems like a lot of the same guy.
Yeah, it's 6 wide receiver 2s.
Yeah, and a lizard.
Unbelievable. A couple of undrafted free agents.
I'm so pissed Lazard didn't get drafted. That I still have no idea how that happened.
Isn't that amazing? What's his height? Isn't he like 7'9"?
Close, 6'5".
Yeah.
I hate people that try to like rip on Blake Bortles when you look at this guy's wide receivers last year and he's got to the AFC Championship game. Like, give me a fucking break.
That's a whole different podcast, DJ. I'm not going down that road.
Yeah, well, it is. I'm down it.
I'll have that podcast with you, but that is a way different box to open up.
Yeah, sorry.
That's a loaded box.
It just frustrates me.
The last guy I had on my list here was Deon Cain, who went to the Colts because the Colts really don't have a ton of offensive skill players on the outside of T.Y. Hilton. So I feel like there might be a little bit of an opportunity there. I'm not super high on him, because I'm also unsure about the status of Andrew Luck still at this time. So I have Cain at 10. Where do you guys have him?
I don't have him listed because I don't know about Andrew Luck, so move on.
All right, Nick.
Also not ranked because I really don't like Deon Cain. He's not even my number 1 wide receiver for the Colts that they drafted this year.
Right. I wanted to so badly like Deon Cain when I was watching him, just because of the whole idea of, Clemson receivers have been awesome lately, and Cain was like this guy that just was hyped up so much, and then he really just never lived up to that amount of hype that I was hearing, and it didn't translate well, and I don't know.
He is so bad after the catch. He'll catch the ball, and then he can't do anything with it.
Right, yeah. Just freezes.
I did.
Nick, do you have any other receivers that you wanted to talk about?
So the one who would have ended up in my top 10 that we did not talk about is going to be Traquan Smith, who got drafted by the Saints out of UCF.
Yep.
He would come in as my
How many arms?
How many arms?
Or hands?
I'm assuming 2. I haven't checked.
Okay, good. Just double check.
But he'd be my wide receiver 8 out of this class, and looks like he may immediately step into the wide receiver 2 role in that offense behind Michael Thomas.
Right, that could be a nice door that opens up there. We'll kind of see how that goes. I didn't have him ranked, but yeah, that's definitely a guy that I considered for the time being, and another guy that could bump up into that area when you see how that all kind of shakes out during the offseason. With that, let's jump into some tight ends.
This should be fast.
Yeah, real fast.
Real quick. Let's talk about my boy. The Dolphins took a tight end, Mike Gesicki, out of Penn State. DJ, what do you got?
So, Nick, I'm gonna introduce a little segment here that I kind of want to do, and I don't have a name for it yet. So if you guys come up with a name for it, that would be awesome. But it's gonna be so. Ben and I have predicted that we have texted each other for every single day for like the last 15 years-ish, literally.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So I'm gonna read it just one text message, and I'm only gonna do this with guess. I want you to guess which one of us sent it, and what do you think we were talking about, just off of this one text message, right? You ready for it?
So it's guess the text. Got it.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So you're gonna guess who sent it, and guess what you think we were talking about, and what the subject was.
All right.
This is the text that was sent here. It was, "Now dab that little asshole dry."
All right, well, just based on the context that's being introduced, I'm going to guess it's about Gesicki, and I'm going to guess Ben sent it. So,
no, it has nothing to do with you were right about who sent it, but it has nothing to do with the segment or with the tight ends at all.
All
right, well, I'm going to give you another guess. I want another guess on what you think we were talking about. And then I'll give you a background on it.
Is it anything football related?
No, not at all.
Then how the fuck am I gonna know?
It's just fun.
This
Little
is my
game I want
favorite.
to play.
P.S. DJ didn't tell me we were gonna do this segment. He just said he had something special for us for a new segment with guests.
Well, I assume last night he was probably out with about way too many drinks and sent that to you.
So here's the background on it. So I've been having a lot of asshole problems since I turned 13. A real itchy asshole.
13?
Since I turned 30.
Oh.
Since I turned 30, and he suggested to me taking what he calls butt baths.
I call it an ass bath.
Ass baths. I call it butt bath because of alliteration, because I'm smarter than he is. So I told him I was taking a butt bath, and I sent him the Snapchat of me like
not
taking
a
a bath.
Snapchat. Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did. And I told him I just finished. He goes, "Yeah, now damn that little asshole dry." After I got out of the bathtub. So there's the background story.
Thank God there was background to that.
All right, well, all your listeners know that now. So
yeah.
I don't care. That doesn't bother me.
We've talked about this in the past. What do we call it? Itchy ass syndrome? I think that's what we.
Yeah, I have itchy ass syndrome.
All right. Well, obviously, I need to listen to the podcast more to get to all these references.
Yeah.
I just catch an episode here and there.
Yeah. DJ gave me heads up as to what that segment was going to be, and it's now my favorite segment in the history of this podcast.
It's going to be every time we have a guest, I'm reading a text message, just one text message
that's fantastic.
From us. All right, and I don't give a fuck about tight ends. That's just my whole theory, so you can go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick.
All right, well, Gesicki is the only tight end I'd have ranked for redraft purposes at all. He lands in a situation where there's nobody else in the depth chart who's a developed pass catcher. They drafted Smythe out of Notre Dame, he's a pure blocking tight end, so Gesicki's going to come in. Optimally, they'd use him as the Landry replacement because he's probably the most dynamic athlete they're going to have running across the middle of the field. I don't believe in Amendola or Wilson, but he's probably going to be looking at 60, 70 targets and just be a pretty meh tight end like most of them.
Yeah, he was my top guy as well in regards to tight ends. With Julius Thomas gone, Julius Thomas sucked anyway. He was pretty washed. He just looked like a guy in a big cardboard box just running.
That guy's body was broken.
Yeah, that's the only way I could. He looked like a refrigerator running down a football field. But Adam Gase loved trying to get him the ball. So that's why I think Gesicki might be able to jump in and get that. Like you said, on their roster right now, it's Marquise Gray. Like, you're not really looking at much for tight ends now that Thomas is gone. And like you said,
a former Golden Gopher quarterback who's now converted to tight end.
Exactly. They have a former quarterback playing the position. So the guy they got out of Notre Dame, he's there purely for blocking. So, yeah, he's going to be given opportunities here to make plays. So he's be my number one for tight ends as well in regards to rookies.
Redraft he's by a mile.
Oh, yeah.
No, Smythe, if you're a Dolphins fan, you're going to enjoy the fuck out of him. He's a really good blocker.
That's what I was hoping for because I didn't really know much about him going into the draft, and I texted one of my buddies and said, tell me that this guy blocks because, at that point, yeah, it'd be great to have another guy that can catch. But from everything I've seen and read about Gesicki, he wants no part of blocking. He's not there to block. That's what Smythe is going to do. His
blocking technique is terrible. Smythe is the best blocking tight end in this class, and you guys got him.
Good to hear. Take note, Kenny and Drake owners. DJ, do you have anything to add, or are you just going to fly by the seat of your pants with tight ends again this year?
I stream tight ends. That's what I do, and there's no fucking way I'm drafting this guy or any rookie tight end. So
you're not even drafting a tight end to begin with.
I probably won't even draft a tight end.
So you treat them like kickers in defense at this
point? Yeah, 100%. And it actually worked out pretty well for me last year. So that was one of the only things I did good the entire year in fantasy last year.
I mean, unless you got Gronk, Kelsey, or Ertz last year, it's pretty much a shit
Yeah,
show.
Pretty much, yeah.
It was.
Yeah. DJ introduced the zero tight end strategy, and that caught a little traction. Other people were talking about it, but you went all in on it. I was proud of you.
That was great.
We referred to the tight end group as a pit of pain, so I agree with you.
Yeah.
Literally what it is.
Fucking hate that position.
Let's talk about the Baltimore guys. We'll clump them together, Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews. This was kind of a big question mark for me because you have Hayden Hurst going early, and I'm not going to be the guy that talks about age of rookies, but that is one thing you have. So if you're looking at like Dynasty and your choice between Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews, with Hurst being drafted higher, you think he'd have the opportunities. When it comes to Dynasty, I almost like Mark Andrews better just because you're getting the younger player, and I don't think that their talent level is that big of a gap. So in this case, I would take the guy who you're going to get later and the guy who is younger. So I would take Andrews between the two. Probably go to Nick here.
Go ahead.
All right, I have no idea what the fuck Baltimore's doing here. Because I wanted Andrews to go to Baltimore. I called that as a landing spot before the draft, but when I was doing that, I did not expect them to take Hayden Hurst in the first round. So it was like, oh, cool, my landing spot, except there's another tight end already blocking him because they drafted Hayden Hurst.
Yep.
If redraft, I'm taking Hurst. He's a first-round tight end, which means he's probably going to get opportunity on a pretty barren depth chart. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be pretty. He's more of an H-back, I think, than a pure tight end type player, but he'll get those targets. So if you're really desperate, he might be worth a flyer in a deeper league, or you're like, hey, I'm going to take two tight ends and churn them immediately if they don't produce.
Right.
Andrews, I actually like better as a dynasty prospect because he's been going later in most of the mocks I've done since the NFL draft here. And of the two, I think his profile is better as a pure receiving tight end.
Yep, absolutely. DJ, anything on the Baltimore tight ends, or are you zero tight end?
What's Brandon Whedon doing nowadays?
You know what Brandon Whedon's doing, right?
I have no idea.
Texans, I think?
Just talking about 30-year-old rookies.
Right?
Oh, we're probably... If you guys did your due diligence, we're talking about an older tight end here in just a minute.
Well, I didn't.
DJ is anti-tight end. I can't stress this enough. Let's talk about the Trey Burton replacement with... how great was it when Philly took a guy with the first name of Dallas right before Dallas was likely to take a tight end there?
Trying to get his name changed to Philadelphia.
Nick, what are your thoughts on the Philly tight end?
This hurt. Goddard was my number one tight end coming into the draft class, and now he gets behind Ertz. Right. So I think it's a slight ding to Ertz because Goddard is good enough that he's going to see the field. He's going to get all of the work that Selleck and Burton had there because both of them are gone now. But it's not going to be enough to be fantasy relevant. So you're going to be sitting on probably 2 to 3 years before you get to see Goddard produce. So if you grab him in Dynasty, he's a hold. Redraft, he has no value.
Yep. I am going to echo that easily. If Ertz were to get hurt, then keep an eye on him with free agents. If you're DJ, if you want to stream a guy, if he ends up getting a couple of targets, maybe you can do him there. But he's more of a keeper dynasty league kind of player for me at this point.
You know what I already hate is the stupid memes I'm going to see about Philadelphia fans like trying to troll Cowboy fans with that stupid name. I can already see it. It's going to be the dumbest thing. Like, don't do it, please. Stop
it's
already. I already hate it.
The shirts are already made and ready to go.
It's going to be like the only thing Dallas ever did good was to have this guy play for Philadelphia. I don't know, something stupid like that.
The best Dallas ever. Got it.
Yeah.
There you
it's
go.
It's going to be dumb.
I just wrote that down. Trademarking it. I didn't have much else for tight ends just because it was kind of a weak class. Do you have another guy you want to talk about, Nick?
If you're looking at immediate impact, the only other one to look at would be Jordan Akins, who landed with the Houston Texans at the end of the third round. 26-year-old rookie, which is really gross. But he's a pure receiving type tight end, landing on a depth chart with only Steven Anderson is the other guy there who barely did anything.
Oh, I didn't know the Texans had a tight end ever.
So, hey, they used to have Snake Dick.
Yeah.
Wait, who is the best tight end to ever play for the Texans?
J.J. Watt.
That's my vote. I'm not sure if there's a better one.
I'm forgetting his nickname was Snake Dick, but I forget what his actual name was. But he was a very good tight end.
Who the fuck did they have?
It's great when your nickname's better than what your.
Did they have somebody with like Matt Schaub? I feel like they had somebody with Matt Schaub.
I mean, they've been rolling with like C.J. Fedorowicz for like the last 2 or 3 years.
No, that's not who I was
he's been
thinking
fine,
of.
But Yeah.
I'll try to figure this out while I'm doing this part here. But basically, Akins comes in as he was a wide receiver convert that switched over to tight end in his last year of college career. He was very productive. He's very fast. And he's on a team that kind of needs somebody over the middle of the field to produce because they have Fuller and Hopkins on the outside, but the middle of the field's a bit of a graveyard. So just based on attrition, he may actually produce year one. He's kind of an Ingram type where he's more of a catcher than he is a pure tight end.
Right. And I also love the fact now that your Google history is going to have snake dick in it. So with that said, I got to propose the age-old question. Nick, would you rather have a nude photo leaked or your entire life's Google history leaked?
I'm going to probably take the Google history just because it's so long and the embarrassing shit is such a small percentage of it that somebody would have to dig through it real deep before they found anything.
You think so? I don't know. I don't like I'm not the thing I wouldn't be embarrassed about. It was like the porn because that's just normal. Never be like, oh, everyone likes porn like this. But it'd be like the searches of like the ex-girlfriends or something like that. Like it's some shit like that I'd be searching. That one I don't think I'd like to see.
Honestly, I don't think I've searched for an ex-girlfriend in a decade.
Or like things like, how do you cure an itchy asshole? Like that's what I would be searching. Like things I don't want people to know about me.
Honestly, my search history isn't that embarrassing, so I'm definitely going with that.
I've definitely Googled some fucked up shit before.
Number one on your search history right now is snake dick.
No, it's literally Texans tight end snake dick, which apparently is Owen Daniels.
Owen Daniels, there it is.
That's who it is.
That's who I was thinking.
Nice.
He played with Matt Schaub, didn't he?
Yeah, well played.
So yeah, and I'm fine with that phrase being with no context, it being in my search history.
Yeah, that's like DJ's text message. That text I sent to DJ without context is terrible. Like I got nervous when you said that. I'm like, I'm not releasing this episode.
That was my favorite thing ever.
Nice. All right, boys. Got anything else you want to talk about, or should we wrap her up?
For redraft tight ends, there's nothing else.
Yeah, it's a short list. I guarantee you, it's a short list. So
I guarantee you.
Well, yeah, that's what we got. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, if you missed out on part one where we talked about quarterbacks and running backs, make sure you go back and check that one out. Check us out on Twitter, Loaded Box. Check out our website, loadedboxpodcast.wordpress.com. Find us on iTunes, search Loaded Box, subscribe, rate, and review. Thanks once again to Nick from the Beer Fueled Fantasy Podcast. That's a mouthful, man. How many times did you have to practice that before you can just spit it out?
That's what she said.
Honestly, the first couple episodes were a bit of a shit show, so we just kind of got it going.
Nice. That's great.
Thankfully, those are no longer on iTunes, so people can't go back and listen.
Oh, that's BS.
I can't even imagine what our old episodes sound like.
I told DJ that I went back and listened to our first one ever. Me and DJ recorded a podcast. The first one we ever did. We didn't know where to load it. We didn't officially call ourselves Loaded Box at the time. And I went back and listened to it, and it's funny because the only way you could listen to it was we had it uploaded on like Google, and you had to ask for our permission to listen.
I was on the phone.
It was an MP3 file on Google Drive.
It was great.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And it's funny, though, because DJ talks about Geronimo Allison, and he kind of predicts a little bit of success from Geronimo Allison. So we were crushing it from the jump.
Oh, I only do good things with the Packers.
Besides the fact that you couldn't hear it unless you asked for permission.
Yeah, that's true.
So our first ever episode was we did the rookie quarterbacks from last year's class was our first ever episode. So that was, imagine how much of a shit show that was.
Oh my gosh, yes. I want to go back and listen to it. Get that thing back on iTunes, damn it.
Yeah, it's going to be like a throwback episode, like a throwback Thursday. Like, here's our first episode.
The comparison I got is I sounded like I was trying to do Fresh Air off NPR.
I still suck at this, to be honest, but I just say, fuck it. It's funny.
Yeah. We just shoot it out there. No editing, no nothing. That's what we like doing. We like having guests like yourself. So thanks again for coming on and putting up with our shit and guessing on our wild games and ranking lowly tight ends and talking about some solid receivers. I think I covered it all there.
That seems like most of it.
All right, man. Thanks again. And DJ, why don't you send us out?
Bye.